Hey everybody, Josh.
Jeannie Rubin here.
From East West Healing. And we are here today for the 14th episode of Conscious Nutrition to talk about body temperature and
pulse. Yes, good stuff here.
Yeah. So, don't forget we are here every single Thursday at
12 noon or 2:30. I think we're changing it. Are we changing
that's
it?
why
I
wasn't sure. That's why it was like, I'll just let her answer it. So
we'll confirm that with you guys. It's going to be either noon or 2:30. We think we're going to be doing it a little bit later in the day, so we will definitely let you know sooner than later, obviously.
So we've done it every Thursday at noon, PST. We're thinking about changing it for specific personal reasons, but it could be now on at 2:30. So we will let you know via Facebook or Instagram, or if you sign in to our Restoration Thyroid, you'll be aware of that, but most likely it's going to be shifting a little bit. But we are here every single Thursday to talk all things health, thyroid, answer your questions, and just kind of come face to face with you guys.
Just talk with you guys.
Yeah.
I think that's really what our goal is to do, is just talk about the work, talk about the things that we're seeing.
Yeah. So before we go into the body temperature and pulse, let's just do a couple logistical things as always. First off, we offer a free 15-minute complimentary consultation. There's no obligation. It's just a chance for us to answer some of your questions, fill you in on kind of how we're seeing what's going on, our philosophy, and maybe like how we would work with you. So I'm going to post that in the comment section. But definitely feel free to, number one, share that with people that you think might want a free consult, as well as fill it out yourself so we can set up your free 15-minute consult. And, just kind of give you something to help you get the ball rolling, because we know a lot of people sometimes I just don't know where to start. My head's spinning. I don't know what to do. And a lot of times because we're focused so far here, what do we do to get that ball rolling? And that's great. That's what that consult's for. Secondly, probably the more important aspect is we have a 7-part audio series. It's called the Restoration Thyroid Audio Series. And it's a 7-part audio series on, number one, how to kill your thyroid adrenals, aka metabolism, with food. So really what it is, it's our philosophy. So it's a great starter for people because it makes them understand where they've how
they got to where
they are,
where they're going,
and how they're going to get to where they're going. And it's our philosophy. So it really helps you understand the basis of where we're coming from. So I'm going to put that link in the comment section below. Feel free to click on that, subscribe. Not only so you can get your audio series, but you can stay up to date with the changes of the Facebook Live that we're doing. Lastly, as always, don't forget to like this, share it with people, because obviously there's people out there that probably want to hear this information. And from a personal perspective, it helps us on Facebook. So we'll leave it at that. I guess one more thing, if you have comments or questions now or in the playback, or you have ideas for future shows, please put those in the comments below. We want to know what you want to hear about, not what we want to talk about. Okay? Mm-hmm. So body temperature and pulse.
So this is a tricky conversation. It's a tricky, but we're going to lay out some of the patterns and kind of what it is, why we're using it. I think, again, it is something that sets us aside from most programs. Our goal is to kind of base our recommendations and things that we're doing with our clients. Hi, Allison. By how the body is expressing itself physiologically. So it's not just about what we've read in the book or what has worked for somebody else. It's really important that we're not only creating or establishing a baseline, but also looking at how the work that we're doing is creating progress, if it's working, not working, so that we can, again, respond appropriately. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing to body temperature and pulse is realizing that it's body temperature and pulse.
And we'll
right?
talk about that.
What's up, JP? Because the only reason we say this is for many physiological reasons, and we'll talk about that. But we see a lot of people online, even some of our clients don't provide the pulse. We see a lot of blogs talk about it. And when you do body temperature without pulse, I hate to use this word, but it's almost useless, right? There has to be a correlation. And the only way we can see that correlation was both, because we can get a lot of false readings if we don't. So when you, and it's like it's almost like when you log your foods, if we don't have body temperature and pulse, we can't really, doesn't mean anything. Or vice versa. We see your temps and pulses without a food log to see what's going on. It doesn't tell us a ton. So it's almost like we need specific things in order to help people. You need those exact same things in order to help yourself, right? So it's not just about getting that perfect temperature, getting that perfect pulse, and chasing it, because body temperature and pulse, believe it or not, is not a marker of health. And people are like, well, why am I using it? And we'll talk about it, but it's not a marker of health. Just because you have a perfect body temperature and pulse doesn't mean you're perfect and you're living in this utopic physiological universe. And it doesn't mean you've healed, right? So we'll kind of go into that, but it's just really important to understand that you need both. It's an equation. It's like you can't have yin without yang. Without them, they don't exist. Just got super, metaphysical with you. And at the same time, you need to look at everything as well as body temperature.
So we don't just base our decision making or
we don't chase
recommendations off body temperature and pulse. We're always correlating it with mood, sleep, energy,
how you feel,
digestion, how do you feel, and a lot of people don't tune into how they're feeling. So that is a huge conversation with our clients.
John.
But yeah, I think body temperature and pulse can be easily misread if we're not tuning into it, if we're not watching patterns, if we're not establishing a baseline of where we're coming from. All of those things are so important, because we do see a lot of clients who, if you were to look at their food logs, would be, well, there's not a lot happening here. But if you dig deeper and you realize what can elevate body temperature and pulse, it begins to tell a different story. And
I think let's just talk about what body temperature and pulse is. And it's actually really simple. Body temperature and pulse was not created by Broda Barnes MD. He has a bunch of books. They're okay, I'll be honest with you. Some of his more specific books that are hard to find, that are very expensive, they're better. But more of his mainstream books, I don't know. I haven't found them to be that well, because I'm sure everyone's Googling him right now. But he does have a website, Broda Barnes MD. He's deceased. Through his work, he correlated the use of body temperature to how well our body takes the energy from the food we are taking in and converting it to usable energy. And that's really what we're looking at with body temperature. He didn't really use pulse. That was not something Broda Barnes used. And Broda Barnes was almost like, through his research, you have heart problems, you have this, that, whatever, a hangnail, you have a thyroid problem, and you need thyroid hormone, right? That was back in the day. That was his thing. So we're not saying like our approach is the same, but we took the science and the understanding of body temperature based on physiology and extracted it and applied it to our approach. So really what you're looking at is, can my body utilize the food that I'm taking in, take that energy and convert it to usable energy at the cell level, which you're seeing in your body temperature.
All your different systems and organs, tissues, and whatnot. So again, the body has to be at a specific temperature for different enzyme functions to occur and whatnot. So again, I only say that because we have a lot of people saying, "Was is it possible that some people can just normally be low body temperature?" Because I've always had a really low body temperature. No, there's nothing normal about a low body temperature.
So speaking of that, normal is 97.8 to 98.6. Anywhere within that spectrum. I don't care if you're 97.8 or 98.6. To me, you are in the norm. Okay. Celsius is 36.5 to 37 is the norm, I'm pretty sure. Is it 36? I think it's 36.5, but somewhere in there. So that's the norm. Now, pulse. Where do we get pulse from? Pulse is something that we picked up from the work of Ray Peat, right? He's a biochemist. He's a physiologist. and he influenced our work tremendously. We kind of developed our own little approach based off a lot of people's work, including his. But that's where we got pulse from. Now, if you research it, there's not a lot out there on pulse. Of course, there is in regards to like Lance Armstrong athletes, a lower pulse is better, right? And we'll touch upon that. But from our standpoint, and this is kind of, I think, something that we have, obviously not through research, I think through experience of working with people nutritionally and understanding physiology and breath work, what we're really looking at with pulse. Number one, we're looking at energy production, right? But long-term energy production. Because I think what we're really seeing is, yes, the thyroid's influence on the heart rate, because that's what it does, right? But initially, when we are eating food and we're regulating our systems, we've revved the engine, but we haven't created consistent normalcy over time. We haven't filled up all the tanks, etc. And we're producing CO2 and we're getting rust off the engine, but blood levels of CO2 have not regulated, and that takes some time. And that's why you see pulse over time take the longest to regulate with a lot of people. That usually comes up lastly and is the hardest to regulate. And I think a lot of it has to do with our blood level of CO2 from consistently regulating our blood sugar and consistently regulating cellular energy production and increasing that feedback loop. So that's kind of where it comes into play.
Yes. So again, you have to think about it. If you're going at a very low pulse, it is about the rate in which the body's able to
utilize process.
What is the word?
Mickey Mouse.
To move hormones and nutrients into the cell and whatnot. So it's the rate in which it's doing that. So when we see lower pulses, it's an indication of a compensation in the system. So the body's slowing down, basically to preservation, to make up for, again, the extra demands that it cannot meet based on that metabolic, that conversion, that energy conversion part. Now, again, another reason why we do use both of them is because, if you live in a warm climate or during summer months or, again, in just a warm place, it doesn't take a lot of work for the human body to stay closer to the normal range at 98.6. So using a pulse can help you begin to differentiate, again, deficiencies in the system when body temperature looks normal. However, the symptoms
as well as the healing state where someone is, because someone could have a healing temperature and their pulse is lower, right? We know they're moving along that path.
Yeah. And we'll see variations in it. In even the baseline, if the baseline is low, we'll see whether or not it comes up. You can, and again, we'll talk about some of the patterns that we notice, but it's not uncommon to see, again, an increase in body temperature, an increase in pulse, and then at some point of the day, body temperature stays normal, pulse drops down really low. So again, we're correlating the two in addition to with what's happening from a feel point of view. How are we feeling? What are we noticing?
So everyone's heard of the circadian rhythm. If you haven't, now you have. So the circadian rhythm is basically the rhythm of...
What's the matter? What's so funny?
I don't know. Me, maybe? I just think I'm funny. It's a rhythm of the body, the immune system, our physiology, right? Or cortisol, everyone likes to say. So typically in the morning, our physiology or our circadian rhythm is more, let's say, at this level. Right? Why? Because we just woke up. We're not really moving a lot. We're not exercising. We shouldn't be. We should be eating breakfast and getting ready for the day. But as the day comes up, we move more. I'm switching to the red pen. And it starts to go up lightly. And then it peaks midday. That's why midday is always the best time to work out, between like 10 and 2. Obviously, for most people, they can't do that because they work. But if you want to know, that's the best time of day to work. And it peaks... And it starts to come down throughout the day, 6 p.m., 9 p.m., and it's all the way down, levels out. Why? Because we're going into that rest and relaxation state. So our physiology drops to meet the demands of what we're going to do. Sleep, right? So we can recuperate. So in a homeostatic state, your body temperature and pulse does the same thing. So normally you'll see, it doesn't have to be, they could be higher, but like let's say 97.8, and a 70 pulse in the morning, and as you start moving, eating, regulating your blood sugar, you see your temperature come up to 98.2, and then it goes up to 98.5, and then 98.6, and then in the evening goes back to 97.8 or 98. That's normal. Same thing with the pulse. That is normal. And usually what you'll see is, even if you are in a dysfunctional state, let's say 95 degree, temperature in a 60 pulse, you should still theoretically, when you eat and you support yourself, go up. You might go to 96.4 and then 96.6, 96.8, and then drop back down to 96 at night. That's still essentially, it's not normal, but the flow of it is normal, right?
It's a progress. It's a normal pattern that we're looking for. I think that's what Josh is trying to say. There's a pattern that we're looking for that is consistent with cortisol rhythms. So cortisol rhythms are one thing that we are looking at when we assess body temperature and pulse. Again, a lot of people are struggling with blood sugar regulation, which can lead to fluctuations in cortisol or highs and lows. But we're also looking at blood sugar, which again, we'll see a lot of fluctuations in body temperature and pulse throughout the day. So if you're going up and down, and again, seeing those correlations with how you're feeling, you can't satiate yourself, you have, big energy plummets in the middle of the day, whatever it may be for you. But that again is showing us the ability to regulate blood sugar, which again informs us of frequency and the need for frequency and even the types of foods that we're using. But we're also looking at energy conversion, obviously, the main thing that we're looking at. But those are three distinct patterns that we can begin to observe using body temperature and pulse, and whether or not the foods that we're consuming are meeting the demands of each day, right?
So we're just looking at, are you meeting your metabolic demand? So we have a question from Jean-Philippe. If you're in Canada, specifically Montreal, and you speak French and you want to study our work, but we don't speak French, definitely contact him, because he is French and he is smart and he pretty much does the same thing. He wants to know what type of thermometer we use, because there's errors with digital ones. To be honest with you, there is, but it's hard for people to sometimes get a mercury thermometer. And it's hard for people to carry that in their purse or whatever. And a lot of the times we have to keep it in our mouth for a long period of time, or in our armpit. So we use a specific thermometer that we've used for probably from the beginning of time. And it's a safety first thermometer.
It's a $6 thermometer.
We've used it with us, our clients. I actually have one right here. Hold on. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not. Might not be in your back pocket, but it's close.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Hold on.
You got it?
Yeah. Got it. Look at my nice chest. Okay. Now, the sales for Safety First will probably go up exponentially when we show this.
I think we've already sold them out.
Everyone's going to be Googling this right away. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! So that is the thermometer we use. It has to be blue. It has to be blue. If it's not blue, then it's not blue. Just kidding. So this is the one we use. Sometimes it's green or sometimes it's pink. We like to use the blue one with the men and the pink one with the women. The green ones are for children that we don't know their birth gender. So this is the one we use. What is the name of it? It's a Safety First. Pretty sure it's a child's thermometer.
It is a child's thermometer.
Children's thermometer, but this is what we used, and this is what we find to be the most accurate. And that brings up a good point. We don't want people to switch and go, well, I use this one, I tried that one, it's different. Reliability and validity. You want to stick with the same one the entire time. Yes. Don't worry about what the other ones say. The temporal ones, the ear ones, the swipe ones, they're trash for you, okay, and adults. We don't want to use them. We want to use a digital thermometer.
And, a couple things. Left side to right side. It's warmer on my left side than it is on my right side. It gives me different readings. Pick a side. Be consistent with whatever it is you're doing.
Just consistency.
The longer if you take a reading and then you take another reading, again, it's going to give you different readings. So, and a lot of times we see that more when people are really trying to get a certain reading and they're not coming up with what they want to see. So I think, don't get too crazy about it. Take the reading, move on.
Yeah, and all I can say is that, and Darlene just mentioned, sometimes it is hard to find, right? So we can just go into the store and buy these, right? But Canada, I mean, you can't ship a grain of salt to Canada without it going through customs and being stopped. I mean, Canada is very hard to ship things to. So you have to find what you can in Canada. And sometimes we just tell clients, just pick a thermometer and just use it. It's a guideline. We're not trying to build a spaceship here. We're trying to use something to get a guideline, and we're just going to create consistency and go with it and trust it. And that's the bottom line. Because why? We're also tuning into how we feel. How we feel inside. And sometimes that's more informative than body temperature and pulse, right? So it's not just body temperature and pulse. We want to look at patterns in the logs, and we want to look at how we feel. So just pick a thermometer and go with it. But yes, this is, one more time, the one we use and we find to be the most reliable. Thanks, Fabio, my friend. Allison had a question. I noticed my food log rounds my temperatures up, so I'm not recording the decimal place. I'm seeing that the detail...
I would just try adding it to a different area. Maybe add it to the how do I feel space versus the body temperature and pulse. Sometimes the formulas in the food log template can become a little distorted. So I would say just go to a different area and add it in.
So JP just put up in Canada, it's actually on his website. You can order it on his website.
And the link is in the feed, so check that out.
Yeah, so check it out. It's French. It's canessay.com supplements. He's a good dude, so check it out. So getting back to whatever we were talking about. So what are we looking at with body temperature and pulse? We're looking at a lot of things. Yes, we're looking at energy, but we're looking at, like Jeannie said, is what you're doing working for you? Is what you're doing not working for you? Are you regulating your blood sugar? Are you not regulating your blood sugar? Are you converting thyroid hormone or not? Are you producing energy or not? Is your day, your life, your nutrition, your workout working for you or not? There's so many things it's telling us that it's a great it's a great feedback mechanism. Now, a lot of people say, well, how come you don't do labs? Well, the first answer to that is we're not doctors. We don't want to play doctor because that doesn't always give us a clear picture. Because most people that do labs that are told they have hypothyroidism, they don't. They have functional hypothyroidism. We did a Facebook Live on that, so go to the videos on our Facebook page or YouTube and check it out. Secondly, what are we really looking at when we are using body temperature pulse compared to a lab? Labs don't tell us how your cells are receiving thyroid hormone and how well you're producing energy. They don't look at that. So they're missing the big picture. They're just saying, are you producing it or not? It's not telling you how your body's utilizing it. And that's the most important thing. So typically, in general, there's two types. You could call it, and I'm using this term lightly, adrenal type and thyroid type. Okay, and this is based off the work of Dr. Weatherby. Even though this is something we kind of figured out on our own for many years, that when people, like Jeannie said, have those fluctuations throughout the day, they have a whatever temperature in the morning, 97, and a 60 pulse, and then they eat and it's like 97.3, and then middle of the day it's 96.4, and then it goes back up to 97.5. Like that instability of body temperature and pulse is blood sugar handling issues, is adrenal issues, is stress, cortisol, survival mode.
Can I just say something really quick? Going back to something that Josh was saying earlier, now we have the normal ranges, okay? But again, it's the patterns that we're looking for. So everybody wants to get to 98.6 so quickly, and they'll do it in any way they can do, and we've seen this happen a million times. Realize that if you're starting to normalize your patterns, your physiology is you're starting to regulate your blood sugar. So it doesn't have to be within norm. You'll get to that place as you begin to store and produce more efficiently. But just keeping that in mind, I just wanted to remind everybody of that, is that you don't have to get to 98.6 right away.
Yeah, don't chase it.
And you don't want to get to 98.6 right away. You want to give it time, especially if you've been in a chronic state for a period of time. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's almost like you go, oh, here's my body temperature and pulse. Just let it go by.
It's an observation.
Just
it's
an observation.
And it's really looking at the whole. It's looking at all the parts and pieces that are coming along with that.
You don't go, I'm going to chase it. I'm going to chase symptoms like we've always said. We don't chase symptoms like everyone else. We create health.
And here's the most important thing to remember is because we are incorporating carbohydrates because it is the fuel to the system.
Shift.
It is an immediate fuel to the system. Sugar is thermogenic. Food is thermogenic. It produces heat. You will see an elevation in body temperature. Is it sustainable? Is it something that keeps you satiated for a period of time?
Right.
You know what I mean? And we can talk about that in more depth.
Well, you might as well talk about it now. So it's like there are some people that say, I ate a pancake or a piece of cake or a hot dog. I'm refeeding. And it went up. Of course it's going to. You're throwing glucose straight into the system. Right. But this is the difference. This is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get a perfect temperature and pulse, right? We're not trying to do that. We are trying to reteach your liver how to store glycogen. Why? Because it does that to convert thyroid hormone. That's where 80% of thyroid hormone is converted, so your cells can use it for energy. So we're really trying to fix the system or heal the system, not just get a perfect reading on your safety first thermometer. Right. So kind of going with that. So the second type we could call a thyroid type, right? And I would say in all the years I've been doing this, I've seen this less than a handful of times, and that's being generous. So these are the people that wake up and they're 96.5, let's just say, with like a 65 pulse. They eat, they've been working with us, they've been regulating their foods, they've been balancing the macros, they've been regulating their frequency, really looking at how they're living, and they keep doing this, and they eat, and they're 96.5. And then they eat again, they're 96.4. They eat again, they're 96.6. They're steady. There's a stability to their body temperature and pulse, right, when they're in this chaotic state. What does that mean? It means they truly have a thyroid issue, right? So a lot of the times, no, everyone's going to be going crazy with their temperature in the next day or two, which is understandable, but keep in mind, we don't want you to diagnose yourself. I'm not saying that we've worked with these people and they haven't healed through just using food, because I have a lady that did. Do I agree that, and I'm sure Jeannie agrees, that a lot of these people still need food first? They need to create that foundation to de-stress the autonomic nervous system. Mm-hmm. Still reteach their liver how to store glycogen. And then once that foundation's there, 6, 7, 8 months down the line, I remember this client in general, there wasn't a huge shift, but she felt incredible, right? She used the glandular for like 3 weeks. Boom. Shifted everything, temps were normal, we titrated off because that foundation was there, she didn't need it anymore, everything was regulated. She didn't have to stay on it. And we see this a lot with people, and they stay on these things, even medication, and they push themselves back in the opposite direction. So think about it, right? The bottom line is we always need food first to regulate what we're doing, so we have that foundation nutritionally to support what we're taking in. What's another pattern that we see?
Well, we were talking about cortisol patterns. So we're looking at conversion, we're looking at blood sugar, we're looking at cortisol, which we talked about earlier. And the reason
high pulse, yeah.
High pulse and low pulse. But going back to cortisol, again, if you're somebody who struggles with sleep, again, watching the patterns regulate throughout the day is going to be your best bet towards getting deeper, more restorative sleep. Right. It's getting that blood sugar regulated during the day, because it's not what you're doing at night that's keeping you from sleeping. It's what you're doing during the day. And again, your body's ability to store that energy and keep you regulated through that fasting period.
But like Jeannie said before, if you wake up and your temp's low, don't go, oh my God, and chase that. It takes time. I mean, there's some people we work with that within 2 weeks it regulates. There's some people we work with it takes 6 months for them to get it to a normal pulse. But they're watering that bamboo. They're building that foundation every step of the way and embracing the journey and not chasing the temperature. We're just observing it. And they're paying attention to how they feel. I feel better. My energy's coming back, etc. So it's just a feedback mechanism to say, am I doing what's right? Do I need to fine-tune this a little bit, etc.?
Is my body chronically inflamed? Am I constantly in a state of inflammation, which helps place things into a greater perspective? It kind of is the eye. It's everything. It's showing you exactly what's going on, so you can begin to kind of zoom out a little bit and have a little bit of a clearer perspective versus reacting to what you're feeling in your body, because you have no idea what the hell's causing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you can begin to relate what you're doing in your day, how your food is supporting you, to how your physiology is responding and how you feel in your body, now you can begin to settle in and find a little more of a rhythm with your healing process versus chasing one diet to another diet to another diet to a supplement to this food to that food. This food's good. It's freaking nuts, and everybody's going nuts over it. So if you want to know if your food is working for you, start taking some readings. Observe that. Does your body temperature and pulse come up after you eat? If it does, holy shit, there's a lot of opportunity in that right there. That's giving you an opportunity that your body can take and receive energy in a much more efficient manner than what you think it can. And it can regulate its blood sugar when it's given the right things at the right times. And again, it is about essentially in these earlier phases of healing, doing for your body what it cannot do for itself. And the only way that you can do that and take it out of that inflammatory process is by tuning in and seeing, okay, well, what is my body doing? Because we do adapt, and what is our normal, what is normal for us becomes normal. I know I didn't know what normal was for a very, very long time in my life. You know what I mean? Well, I knew what my norm was, but I didn't know what normal was. So again, it's such a powerful tool, and these are all things that you get to see. So if you want to know what to eat, and again, is your exercise working for you, you can easily use these readings to assess that.
But don't walk around with a thermometer.
But don't walk around with a thermometer.
We take it like in the morning in bed, laying down with pulse, and then maybe 1 to 2 times throughout the day. That's it. A maximum. It's a feedback mechanism. And you don't want to do it every day because you want to use that information to understand what's going on so then you can feel. Right? The answers are always in doing, and when we get those answers, we begin to feel and understand what's going on, and that's where the healing comes into play. So work with some of the things Jeannie talked about. I just wanted to touch upon one more thing before we kind of wrap this up is... Yeah. It's very common for people to sometimes have normal body temperatures and pulses, and they feel like crap. Right? And a lot of the times, and this kind of correlates with, so that can mean one of two things. You're very resilient, and you're not really as far into it or down the rabbit hole as you think. Or it just means that the acute stress is super chronic, and once you start eating food and regulating your blood sugar, you're going to see those things plummet. Yeah. Okay? That's not a bad thing. It just means now you've actually got rid of the fire, the hyperadrenal and hypercortisol, and you're at your norm. Right, you've regulated the stress, and now you have to rebuild. Same thing with like normal body temperature and pulse, and normal body temperature, high pulse, like 90, 95, 100, 110. We've seen it, right? These are the people that are so chronic, they're so hypoadrenic, they can't even regulate their pulse. So what happens is they're very hyperadrenaline, and this takes consistency and going very slow to regulate things, to bring them down and push them back into a place where you've now de-stressed the adrenals, you're regulating your blood sugar to take the stress off the system, and you're filling up a lot of your empty, bank accounts so your adrenals can play a role in regulating your pulse because it's gotten out of hand. So you see all these different patterns, but the bottom line is this. It's information, and we just need to start with food and frequency to regulate it, to tap into the ANS, do it consistently to slowly regulate things over time. And honestly, it's that simple. It's
simple, but it takes a little bit of work and observation and tuning in and whatnot. And I think, again, but once you've got it, you've got it. Like, you know what your body needs. And that's the whole idea, is to come into clearer communication of how your body communicates with you when it is not receiving the support that it needs. Because everybody's body communicates differently. Everything manifests differently in each body. So basing anything off of a symptom can run you down a nasty little rabbit hole, that is unnecessary.
Right.
The most.
So I think for most people, what you need to do is this. For the next 2 to 3 days, take your temperature and pulse in bed laying down when you wake up in the morning. That's your baseline. That's your baseline metabolically where you're at. I don't care if you feel like Superwoman or Superman or you feel horrible. That's your baseline. There's a lot of people that feel amazing and their temperatures or pulses are baseline hypothermic, right? So this tells us, and do that for like three days, maybe 4 days, see what's going on, so you can see the patterns. It's going to tell you a lot, and it's going to give you a lot of information of what you need to change within your life your nutritional habits, your emotional status, in order to begin to regulate your physiology and truly heal, instead of just feeding your body maybe what you want versus what it needs, you know?
Yeah.
Is that anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into some deeper things, but I don't want to confuse people. I just think, again, right now, it's just if the best place to begin would be through observing your own patterns. Tune into it. Not only just, again, the readings, body temperature and pulse, but also, you know, okay, well, how does a meal make me feel? Am I staying satiated? Is it giving me energy? Do I feel a little more calm? Do I have a clear, you know, am I able to think more clearly? What is it that's going on for you? Because, again, that is also extraordinarily informative.
In the audio series, the Restoration Diet audio series, we put the link in the comment section. You can check it out. There is a lesson on there in that audio series on body temperature pulse. So definitely check that out. So, do we have any other questions before we wrap it up? Thanks, JP, my friend. Any other questions before we wrap this up? Do we miss anything? Yeah, JP was kind of saying, like, for every degree under the normal, our body temperature and pulse are, in a sense. That means the 37.2 trillion cells in our body can't do what they're designed to do, which means the systems in our body begin to compensate more and more the lower it gets, right? So it kind of shows us the amount of compensation that we're in. So you can think of it that way. So it's a good example.
And also people who have like chronic sinus issues and whatnot, doing your readings under the armpit is going to be more reliable. I guess that reading is going to be more reliable because your temperature will increase in the mouth. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, with my clients, I just tend to use the mouth. It gets too confusing, but that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, Broda Barnes talked about that. That people can't breathe through their nose, that have severe sinus issues, to take it under your arm because it's just more accurate. You know, so you can kind of, you know, play with that a little bit. So, if we don't have any other questions, we really appreciate everyone that tuned in, that's watching it now and later. Don't forget to set up your free 15-minute consult and subscribe to our Restoration Diet audio series. That is in the link below. Don't forget to share this, like this, and post any comments or questions. And that we are here every single Thursday to talk about all things health.
You guys have a great week.
Peace.
See you later.